A father is a man who expects his son to be as good as a man as he was meant to be, not one to commit murder.
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast, a podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. Hey, my infamous crew. Ladies, how y'all feel? Fellas, y'all all right? It is another wonderful day, and I am happy to be talking to y'all about these folk that think they are above the law. Now, I hope that y'all are kicking off the new year right and enjoying what life has to bring. And y'all know the drill. Tell me what you're sipping on. Is it white? Is it brown? Are we doing a good red wine? Like, tell me what's up. Me, I'm trying to do something simple today. Today, I am sipping on some Moscato champagne. Yes, y'all, I am celebrating another book that I completed. Listen, I implore each and every one of you to come up with a dozen goals or tasks that you want to do for the year 2025. One goal or task each month, and then go out and buy a dozen bottles of champagne. I know it sounds crazy. It doesn't have to be expensive, just, something that you like that'll give you enjoyment. And then write down one of those goals or tasks on each of the bottles. Then when you accomplish it, guess what? Pop that top, baby. That's all I'm saying. And I want y'all to start sending me some suggestions of what to drink because I want to be able to give my critique, kind of like give my review on the drink for each episode. And of course, y'all know how to reach me with your drink suggestions. You can email me, post it in your reviews, comment in the discussion group. The discussion group has been popping lately. Y'all are a mess in there. But I do want to give a quick shout out to everybody that has ordered books in the last week. After last week's episode, I had like a crazy influx of orders from my website. So, shout out to all of my readers out there, my infamous crew turned Kitty Kisses readers, my literary diva dolls, all of that. If you weren't able to order, no worries. You can check my website, www.mzkaye.com. That's www.mzkaye.com. Now, y'all ready to get into it? Let me tell y'all, today's episode is definitely one that is just an all around what in the entire fuck. Even though there is a victim, I'm side eyeing the hell out of that victim too. Now, it's not to say that what happened to the victim is deserving because it's not. But the real victim to me, I feel like is doing time in prison for something that he was kind of pushed into. But y'all see what I mean in a minute. Y'all know what time it is. Let's get it. This week's case involves Paulette Burleson, the victim, Tyone Palmer Pollard, the accomplice, Tracy Burleson, the mastermind and Paulette's husband, and the infamous murderer, but with a twist, William Fuller, who is also the victim. Now I can already see the looks of confusion on your faces like, what? What the hell you talking about? He's also a victim. Don't worry, we gonna get into it. Paulette Ross Burleson was born June 6, 1963 in Bullhead Bluff, Camden County, Georgia. That is a mouthful right there. Bullhead Bluff, Camden County, Georgia. Whew. She had two sisters, Fanny Aaron and Joyce Bingham. She grew up in the Fifth Ward of Houston, Texas, and like most families, especially when it came to single mothers, they struggled and it wasn't always, easy. But one thing that her mother was persistent about was their base in religion. Paulette grew up in the church, singing in the choir, Bible study, vacation Bible school, all of that. Y'all remember vacation Bible school? We used to call it VBS. Like that one week in the summertime, I remember going to church and we would go to vacation Bible school, and every day we would go to our classes and, learn stuff out the Bible. And they would give us them little cookies that had like, it was like the little cookies that had the hole in the middle where you could stick them on your finger. And like we would act like they were little rings or whatever. I don't know why I remember that, but yeah. So that's kind of like what, Paulette's life was like. She was very into church, but she was also very eager to grow up. After she graduated college and she got her degree in nursing in her early 20s, she decided that she wanted to get married. But unfortunately, the marriage didn't last too long. See, her first husband turned out to be very abusive. Nigga couldn't keep his hands to himself. So Paulette quickly got out of that relationship. Lucky her. Now, about 4 years later, she ended up meeting a new man. And, things were going good. So good that now Mrs. Ross done got a great job working at Jefferson Davis Hospital as an RN. And from that relationship and that marriage, she ended up having two sons. Now, I could only find one of the boys' names, which was John Ross. And honestly, the only reason I was able to find him is because he had a little bit of trouble with the law. And by the time Paulette was murdered, he had been in jail like 4 times for possession. But anyway, Paulette had 2 sons that were produced from that marriage. And another thing that Paulette really loved doing was helping kids. She would bring in foster kids to help them lead happier lives, so to speak. And while all of this is going on, she realizes that she's not really in love with her second husband like she thinks. So they end up getting a divorce. And, she's still very much into the church and, she's being this great foster mom. So they say, we'll get into that later. But anyway, so one day she decides to attend First New Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Houston, Texas. And it was there that she met the love of her life and the reason for the end of it as well, Tracy Burleson. Tracy Bernard Burleson was born in 1966. He was about 3 years younger than Paulette, and much like Paulette, he also grew up in the church. But he was a little different. He had a son from a prior relationship, William Fuller, who I'll talk about in a minute. But Tracy was a very busy and friendly individual, shall we say. So it's 1994, and Paulette is coming to the church and she sees this drummer there. Now, at the time, Tracy was the drummer of the church, and his stepfather was the pastor. And the thing about this church is it was a very prominent church in the community. It had been a fixture in the Fifth Ward in Houston, Texas since like 1917 when it was established. So, it had a lot of lineage with it. And Paulette, she really enjoyed the church when she visited, so much so that she came back and her and Tracy started getting to know each other. And I mean, who wouldn't love a man of God, right? Like he's involved in the church just like her. He loves God. His stepdaddy is the pastor. All of it is just great. And, things are going good. They start dating. And in July 1995, they get married. It's going good for a while. She's happy with her husband. She's fostering kids and everything. She's got her 2 sons. And around this time, Tracy is set to be the, next lead for the church to be the new pastor. And she wants to be the first lady. Now, like I said, she has her 2 sons, and Tracy also has his son, William. And William is living with his mother, Sharon Fuller, in another state. But when he gets to be about 11 years old, he comes to live with Tracy and Paulette. Reason being is that William was living with his mother, and she worked like a lot of hours and couldn't really focus 100% on taking care of William. Now I know you're sitting back like, okay, what you mean? Like it's called being a parent. Very true. But here's the thing about William. William Darnell Fuller was born in 1992 to Tracy Burleson and Sharon Fuller. William had sickle cell anemia. He was very sick. And at one point, he was actually blind. And, a lot of people really didn't know about sickle cell anemia until certain celebrities like TLC's T-Boz came forward and talked about it and really kind of, broke down what it is exactly and how they're affected by it. And, for those of you that don't know, sickle cell anemia is a blood disorder that causes red blood cells to become rigid and sickle shaped. Basically, it prevents the cells from moving through blood vessels as they should. And ultimately, it causes a lot of pain and infections and other complications. And, people can be hospitalized for weeks because of it. Like, I have a friend of mine that's an author, and it seems like every time I turn around, she's in the hospital for sickle cell. And, it's very traumatic for her. Like, she has to deal with so much. Typically, the only way that you get sickle cell, so to speak, is if you have the inherited gene. So William has this disorder and is having a lot of side effects and whatnot. And so when he was 11 years old in 2001, he went to live with Tracy and Paulette. Tracy and Paulette had been married since 1995. So at this point, there's a lot of tension in the house. Remember, I said things were good for a while, but now there's a lot of drama. Things with Tracy and Paulette were good the first couple of years, but Paulette and Tracy are constantly beefing now. And usually it's over money. Surprise, surprise. I mean, let's be real. Most relationships, when you have marriages, you beef about money a lot. Now remember, Paulette had foster kids that she was bringing into the house, but those foster kids weren't being treated the best. There were many, and I mean many claims of abuse. The children would have to sleep outside in the shed in the back. They wouldn't be able to use the bathroom in the house like regular people. They would have to like shower with using a hose. They would have to clean themselves with a hose. The fuck? And so when William moved in, he's seeing all of this firsthand. Plus, he's, trying to keep the peace between his father and his stepmother because they beefing with each other so much. And at first, everything is going good because, for Paulette, she sees William as her golden goose. She's got her foster kids and they're bringing in money. But now William, with him having sickle cell, oh yeah, that's guaranteed money from the state every single month, disability. And the checks are rolling in because not only did he come to live with them, but William's mother gave up her parental rights completely. The bad thing is that William had to endure Paulette's abuse for 9 years. He's battling this illness and enduring a lot of physical and verbal abuse from both his mother and his father, excuse me, his stepmother and his father. And as he gets older, he actually went and filed charges on Paulette for abuse. And in 2009, she had to actually go to trial. Now, she didn't go to jail, which sucks, but the judge ended up making her take some parenting classes and put her on felony probation. So, because of this, she and Tracy couldn't foster any more kids. The state of Texas was like, "Nah, bitch, we ain't having that. You ain't about to have us on the news." Now, at the time William filed the abuse charges on her, he's over the age of 18 because remember, he's been living there for 9 years. So he's already legally an adult when he files these charges on her. He's still receiving his disability checks, or rather, Paulette and Tracy are still collecting those checks. So as time is going on, Tracy starts getting caught up in some shit. And, Paulette, she ain't stupid. She knows that something is up with her husband. And, we women, we have a sixth sense about these, kind of things. Things have been rocky with her and Tracy for a while. And the first thing she notices is that her husband got a little bit of a wandering eye. Like not a little bit, but a whole lot. Baby Paulette done caught her husband in the church with women and men, and even some transvestites. The fuck? What? Yes, ma'am, Pam. Sure did. Now, there was already some tension in the church because of the fact that Tracy had become the new pastor. See, when Tracy's stepfather got ready to step down, there was supposed to be a vote for who was going to be the new pastor. But his stepfather was like, "You know what? Imma go ahead and help my boy out." So he went and created a bunch of fake members' names that ultimately voted for Tracy, and for lack of better words, he cheated that shit. He trumped it. He stole the election and ended up becoming pastor of First New Mount Calvary Baptist Church. And a lot of the members, they weren't pleased at all about this. They didn't want Tracy's ass to be the pastor. Some members even left the church. They was like, "Who? Oh, he our new pastor? Oh, I bet we out." And after he became pastor, of course, this is Paulette's dream. She was officially the first lady of the church. God bless. But behind closed doors, Paulette and Tracy are still fighting verbally and physically. Like sometimes to the point that they were even using weapons on each other, stabbing each other. It became so toxic for William that he ended up moving out, and he moved in with his friend Tyone. Tyone Marie Palmer Pollard was born in 1979. Tyone was a nurse practitioner, and she was also a member of the choir at the church. Her job was to actually take care of William. Like, this was pretty much her best friend. She was a mother of three working at the hospital and taking care of her kids and, of course, William, especially when it got real thick and, he was really getting sick. There were days that William really needed somebody to take care of him because of the sickle cell, and Tyone was that person. But in addition to her taking care of him, she was his friend. So much so that a month before the murder, William was in the hospital literally for like a month, and Tyone was with him every single day. Now, Tyone had also been married before. In fact, she was still legally married. When Tyone and William grew closer, William introduced Tyone to his father, and they were introduced in the fall of 2009, and she jumped right on in to help her clergy. Hmm. Hot ass. She joined the choir, and her and the good pastor had some really good, shall we say, praise sessions. Glory, hallelujah. Tracy was doing that with a lot of the women, and I mean a whole lot, and some men too. Okay. In addition to his wandering dick, Tracy also had a big mouth. He was telling William, son, I'm about sick of your stepmom. She need to go. I want her dead. All kind of shit like that. Telling his young son, honestly, son, sometimes I just wish she would just die. And he's laughing and joking and telling him, she don't even get sick. Like he's putting these thoughts in his son's head. Plus, he's telling him about how he's out here sleeping around with different women and men and all of that. But it's not like he can just go and broadcast this information because he's the pastor of the church. And the deacons have made it clear that he would be asked to leave if he would be asked to leave his position if they ever had any kind of evidence that Tracy was engaged in any type of extramarital affairs. And so the only person that he confides in outside of the bitches that he's fucking is William. And so William's got all of this on him. He's trying to, live a normal life, but it just doesn't seem to be going good for him. If he's not sick, then he's having to deal with his father and his constant whining about his stepmother. The only positive thing in William's life is Tyone. Now, he did end up enrolling at Texas Southern University. Shout out TSU. And he enrolled as a nursing student because he wanted to, be like his best friend. He wanted to go into nursing. Only he received a $5,000 stipend per semester, but because of his disability, they cut the checks to his parents. And of course, you know who those were. Yep, Tracy and Paulette. And they took it. Every time they would take the money and, he would ask about it, and Tracy would tell him, "Oh, well, these checks, they being garnished for your mama's misdeeds." That's so trifling. This entire time, William is thinking that his mother, his biological mother, is getting this money. And then he finds out the truth. And he's thinking, "Oh, well, shit, this makes sense because the only time that my parents are happy is when they spending my money." Because according to him, that's all they cared about, which I believe. So time is going on, and now the kids that were at the house have aged out of the system, and they can't foster any more kids because of the abuse allegations and her being on federal probation. So the only money that they can get, is Williams. Paulette, she's coming up with all these ideas at the church every month, every week. It's some type of fundraiser or bingo night or something to try to make money so that they can, have money to spend because they've created this lavish lifestyle and they got to keep up appearances. But then in April of 2010, Tracy tells Paulette, hey baby, I gotta go to the church. I'm gonna go work on my sermon. And he leaves to go to the church, but it ain't to work on his sermon. It's to work on another congregant. And Paulette, she knows something is up. She got that little feeling in her spirit. She decides to pop up on his ass. So she shows up to the church and she sees her husband Tracy in there making out with a chick. And it wasn't even Tyone. Oh, and baby, Paulette is pissed about this. So it's bad enough that you out here fucking around on me, but now you fucking around on me in the church with bitches that I gotta see all the time? You fucking around on me with this bitch? And Tracy, he's like, oh no, 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 it ain't nothing like that, baby. I don't know what you're talking about. You nigga, you tripping. And then he's like, well, she just needed some counseling, baby. That's all. Counseling my ass. Nigga, really? And Paulette, she's pretty much had it. Like she's starting to look at him like, why the fuck am I with you? Like some Risa Tisa, who the fuck did I marry type shit. And Paulette, she's looking at the grand scheme of things. I mean, Tracy's been the pastor of the church for the last 2 years. And since he's been the pastor, the membership has dwindled. She's not getting money from the state like she used to, except for William. Tracy's out here cheating on her with multiple women and men, got her in the streets just looking dumb. So she's just like, yeah, I ain't gonna keep doing this. Like, she can't catch a break. She's not winning. And, Tracy's telling her, well, I ain't happy either. Shit, I want a divorce. And she makes it very clear. If you divorce me, you ain't getting nothing. Like, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have what you have now. And now Tracy is telling his son William even more like, I really wish I could just break away from this girl. And at the same time, he's getting closer with Tyone. And Tyone, obviously she knows that this man is married, but she don't care. She don't give a fuck. She's in love with him. Or should I say in lust. They're spending time together. They taking pictures and all of that as a cute little family. Like, fuck the fact that this nigga got a whole ass wife and he a pastor of the church. Baby, the level of burning that you gonna do in hell, whoo, it ain't even been invented yet. Quite honestly, I really don't see how word wasn't getting around like that because Tracy was sloppy as fuck. But eventually, Tyone, she starts to get frustrated and she start getting anxious. She tired of playing the little chick on the side. Like, see, this is another example of a side chick not knowing how to shut the fuck up and play her role, wanting to switch shit up. But Tyone tells Tracy, listen, if you gonna be with me, then you gonna be with me only. I'm tired of you throwing this bitch in my face. I'm tired of coming to church every Sunday, praising and worshiping and singing in the choir and seeing her sitting up in the pew acting like she all holier than now. So what you gonna do? And Tracy's old gullible ass is just like, don't worry, baby, I got it. Now, how he got it was to start pressing William to kill Paulette. Come on, son, you gotta kill her. You gotta take her out. Why you don't want to kill her? And William, he's not really wanting to do that. He's telling his father, I don't want to kill nobody. Why does that got to be the only way? Why you can't just divorce her? But remember, Tracy knows that if he tries to divorce Paulette, he ain't getting shit. So Tracy resorts to another tactic. He's telling William, yo, if you kill her, she got this big ass life insurance policy and it's worth like 100 grand. So if you kill her, I can break you off with some of that money. And William is still very hesitant about it. So of course, Tracy is pushing even harder. He's threatening him. He's even using physical violence on his own son. And Tyone, she's on the other end. She ain't helping. She's trying to get him to do it too. Come on, Will. You know you my friend. I really need you to do this. I love your daddy. I want to be with him. And then he got Tracy in his ear telling him, yo, the minute that you get rid of her, me and Tyone, we could get married. Now, here's where shit gets funny to me. This nigga Tracy goes to meet with Tyone's family and tells them, I love Tyone and I want to be with her. I want to marry her with your blessing. And this nigga actually gets their blessing. What in the entire fuck? How are you able to get blessings from somebody's family members to marry them when you are still married? Both of y'all are still married. Like, what the fuck? But he was serious about it. So him and Tyone and William, they go with her kids and they take pictures together all while he's married. And Tracy is telling her kids, we gonna be one big happy family. You gonna have the father that y'all need in y'all's lives. Like this is some crazy shit. Mind you, Tyone is still very much separated from her husband, but not legally divorced yet. So the more the time goes on, the more impatient that Tracy is getting. His wife is still alive. Tracy's going to William and he's threatening him now. He's like, listen, I'm tired of you pussyfooting around about this. You need to do what the fuck I told you to do. Nigga, if you want her gone so bad, you do it yourself. Like, begging ass nigga. Anyway, so it's 2010. William's still caught in the middle of all of this. He's trying to convince his father, to just divorce Paulette. And Tracy's like, nah, I done been through too much with her. I refuse to leave with nothing. I'm a leaver, but I'm going to leave with her insurance money. But the only way to get that is if she dies. And then he finds out that the $100,000 life insurance policy that he has on his wife, it doesn't work out like he thinks. The policy is for $100,000, but he would only get 30,000 of that as the beneficiary. So he goes back to William and he tells him, "Listen, I got this policy on her, but I'm not going to get as much as I thought I was going to get. But look, I'm going to still break you off though. I'm going to get like 30,000 of it. I'm going to give you $3,000 of that. $3,000 out of 30,000, and William's going to be the one doing the dirty work. You crunchy rice crispy in the face looking ass bastard." Now, not only is Tracy thinking about how to get rid of Paulette, but he's also thinking about how he can come up with some extra money because he's got a new wife that he has to plan for and be daddy to all of her kids. So he comes up with another scheme. A week before Paulette is killed, there's a mysterious fire at a church. Well, what church you talking about, Kay? His, Tracy's church, First New Mount Calvary Baptist Church, is ablaze. The same church that's been a pillar in the community, the same church that's practically a landmark, is ablaze. And there's a reason for this. Him and Paulette were always on this whole come up with money scheme. So one of the schemes that was done was to try to get insurance money. Around that time, they had like hurricanes and floods and tornadoes and all of that. So they put in a claim for insurance for hurricane damages, and the insurance company sent them a check for the repairs. But the insurance had to inspect and see the progress and everything. So every time they tried to schedule time to see the progress, Tracy would reschedule the inspection. And of course, Tracy had to because, duh, there's no actual damages. And Tracy knew that if they came and they saw the church and that there were no actual damages, he would end up having to pay that money back and possibly face legal trouble. So a week before Paulette is murdered, she and Tracy get a phone call that the church is on fire. Supposedly, the fire started in the kitchen, which is where the repairs were supposed to be done, and their entire church is gone. After the initial shock wears off, Tracy and his friend and fellow church member Damon Crawford, they're examining the ruins. And Damon hears Tracy say something kind of odd. They're inspecting everything, and Tracy suddenly says, "Now that the church has been burned down, to make my life complete, I got one more thing to get rid of." And Damon looks at him like, "What did this nigga just say?" But before he can say anything to him, Paulette walks up and Tracy just gets like real quiet. Now, this is the part where I start to think,
No, you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
Now, if your little beady eyed, bullet head, meerkat shape shifting looking ass is gonna commit arson, might I suggest that you not make the comment about getting rid of things and people to other motherfuckers? Don't say that shit in front of people. It's just that simple. Because when shit like this entire situation backfires, there's a quote that says, don't tell a person everything. You might be educating the enemy. And you just taught a whole fucking lesson. Nigga, it can be used against you in a court of law. And as you all will soon find out, it was. So now this herpes sore looking ass bastard basically confessed to committing arson on his church to his friend. But his trouble is far from over. So now that there's no church, he's pushing down on William to go ahead and commit the act of murder. He's flat out telling William, "You gonna do this. You a pussy if you don't." And he's not only threatening him, but he's hitting him and being violent towards him. And Tracy knows that his son is just vying for his attention and his affection, and most importantly, his love. William would do anything for him. So he tries to use this to his advantage. And he's like, "Look, son, if you really love your pops like you say you do, you gonna do this. I'm not about to be dealing with her for the rest of my life. You got to do this shit now." And finally, William agrees. Tyone gets him a gun that isn't registered, of course, and they come up with a plan. On May 18th, 2010, Tracy and Paulette are at home like usual, and they're in the house, and the two have been arguing all day. And it's mainly because Tracy has been picking a fight with her. So they're arguing, and Paulette goes outside to go sit in one of her lawn chairs at the end of the driveway to kind of like actually get away from Tracy. William is lurking close by, waiting for Tracy to hit him and, tell him it's time. So Paulette's outside sitting at the driveway in her lawn chair, and Tracy's car is also at the end of the driveway. When Tracy sees Paulette go sit down, he grabs his walkie talkie and he chirps over to William, "You got to come do it right now." And once he does that, he goes outside and he continues his argument with Paulette, like distracting her. And she's frustrated with him. She's like, "Nigga, can you please leave me alone? Damn." But Tracy got his plan into motion now. He's egging shit on. The two are arguing so loud that some of the neighbors hear them. But they ain't giving a damn because this is the norm for them. They arguing and bickering all day long. She's sitting in the chair and she has no idea what is about to happen to her. William comes running up behind her as instructed by his father, holding a 38 caliber handgun. He sneaks up on Paulette and shoots her right in the back of her head. Paulette slumps forward, blood leaking from her head, and dies right there in the driveway. And Tracy, he's actually excited at this point, oh sick bitch. His plan is working. He tells William, go to Tyone's, go, get out of here. So Tyone, she comes and she picks William up and, she takes him to her cousin's house where he can shower and change clothes and everything. And they stop so he can dump the gun off of this bridge. Now, while she's doing that, Tracy is trying to create this alibi for himself. He's like, "All right, I'm going to tell the cops that I went to the gas station to go get a snack in case they ask where I've been." So he opens the door to his car and kind of like backs out of the driveway a little bit and calls 911. And he's crying on the phone, "Y'all gotta send help, please. Y'all gotta send help. My wife, she's been shot. She's dead. She's dead. Somebody killed my wife. Y'all gotta hurry up and get here." So the cops are en route, and Tracy gets down on the ground and he picks Paulette up in his arms. And now he's got to put on the performance of a fucking lifetime. He's got her blood all over him and stuff. And he's just rocking back and forth, putting on this performance. "Oh my God. Oh my God. My wife, my baby. Why, Lord? Why?" All of that carrying on. And so while this is going on, remember, William is with Tyone. So she's taking him to her cousin's house. He's getting cleaned up and everything. And once he's finished, they go back to her house. And wouldn't you know, Tyone decides that she's going to reward William for helping her get rid of his stepmother. So Tyone goes and fucks William. Mind you, she been fucking his daddy for almost a year. But she sleeps with William and then says, "Now we can be a family." Bitch, what kind of family are you trying to be? The Goonies? The Hills Have Eyes? Like, that's some nasty ass shit. Them damn kids was probably all kind of confused in that house. So the cops get to Tracy and Paulette's house and they see Tracy on the ground, holding Paulette. And it's pretty standard procedure when it comes to a domestic situation like that to separate the spouses. And of course, the husband is always going to be the number one suspect. So when they get there, they take Tracy and they put him in cuffs and put him in the back of the cop car. Now, the whole time he's talking, he's telling them, that he's innocent and everything, and how he came home to find his wife slumped on the ground. He tells them, yeah, man, I went to the store to go get me, something to eat. And when I came home, like her body was just laying there on the ground and she was slumped over. And the cops are like, okay, well, do you know who could have done this? And he tells them, "Yeah, man, we got a lot of beef right now with some of the members of the church. They didn't like the fact that I was the new pastor, and it's been something that's been ongoing." So the cops are taking notes and everything, and they're like, "All right, cool. We got something to work with." And by now, the word is starting to spread throughout the neighborhood that Sister Paulette Burleson of the church is gone. So the cops, they're doing their investigation, and William comes up to the scene. And of course, this is after he done got some pussy. And he's all, "What's going on? I heard that my stepmother was shot. What's happening?" So they're questioning him now. "Well, son, when was the last time that you saw your stepmother?" Stuff like that. And he's playing the role and he's, "Oh my God, I can't believe this happened," being distraught and whatnot. And investigators have questioned him and Tracy. And they even questioned Tyone because, she's William's caregiver. Now, initially, everybody's thinking that, everything is good. But about a week after Paulette is murdered, Tracy decides that he's going to move in with Tyone and William. And William ain't really feeling too much because he done got some of that good. He done got some of that, that hot pocket from Tyone. And now he's wanting to keep her for himself. He even had gotten her lips tattooed on his neck and everything. The fuck? And Tracy, of course, he ain't give a fuck about this. Him and Tyone were starting to plan their family and put their, lives together. But he still got a problem. The church is suspecting him of murder. On May 28th, 2010, Paulette Burleson has her funeral at the Rising Star Baptist Church in Houston, Texas. Her family is there, her friends are there to say goodbye, and it's a very sad, sad situation. Tracy's there and he's crying and boo-hooing and, talking about how his wife is gone. This bald headed bastard is really thinking that he got away with murder. Now, by all accounts, everything's good. He's got his girl and, he's able to be with her in the open now. But when William comes to him and he's just like, "Listen, Pops, I can't take this. I think I should go to the cops and tell them what I did." And Tracy's like, "Nigga, you out your fucking mind? You ain't about to go to no cops. Are you fucking crazy? You want to go to the cops? Hell no. You know what? Now fuck that. You got to get the fuck up out of here. Your ass can't live here no more. Bad enough that you over here fucking around and trying to fuck my girl. Now you tell me you want to go to the cops? Nah, your ass got to go." And so he kicks William out of Tyone's house. Now this is another moment where I'm thinking,
Nigga done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
yes, y'all. Y'all got that twice tonight. You heard it right. Because this has got to be the dumbest motherfucker on the planet. Clearly, he did not think this shit out. If you gonna kick your son out of the house, you don't think that's gonna, give him fuel to go and snitch? Because that's exactly what happened, you crater-faced ass bastard. Tracy, you got to have the IQ of a fruit fly. Like, you make a wall look smart. William went to go see one of his friends, Perrette Rhodes. And, they sitting there talking and everything. And he tells Perrette, "Friend, I got to talk to somebody about this." And Perrette's like, "Well, what's going on?" And he tells her, "I shot my stepmother in the back of the head. I'm the one that killed her." And she is shocked. "What? Are you serious?" Oh, he's dead ass serious. And he's like, "Yeah, my dad told me that he would give me $3,000 if I did it, and I did it." And baby, one thing Perrette was not about to be was somebody's accomplice. She was like, "Oh, hell no." Soon as she was done talking to William, she took her ass right to the police and was like, "Hey, so yeah, y'all need to know something." She tells them everything that William told her, and they were like, "Okay, so listen, we need to get some concrete evidence, so this is what we need you to do. We're going to tap your phone, and we need you to call him back and talk to him on the phone about what happened." And Perrette, she agrees. Cops put a wiretap on her phone, and she calls William. And, they're talking and having casual conversation, and then she mentions the shooting. And she asks him, "Why did you do this?" And he tells her, "Because my dad asked me to. He wanted to get her money, and he knew he couldn't get money out of her any other way. So I shot her in the back of the head, and he said he would give me $3,000." And that was all the police needed. On Tuesday, June 8th, 2010, they went and they arrested William Fuller for the murder of Paulette Ross Burleson. So William's in custody, and he takes this opportunity to come clean. He tells the police everything. "Yeah, I did shoot her, yeah, but it was because my father asked me to." And the cops are listening, and they're like, "The pastor? Her husband?" And William confirms it. He starts telling them about everything, how he endured the abuse from his parents, how his stepmother and his father were taking money from him, how he would be punished for things that, were beyond his control. He talked about how he had to lay on the concrete sometimes on handfuls of rice in the driveway because, his stepmother was upset at him about something. He talked about being made fun of and how his stepmom talked shit about him and how he, basically hated her. Now, remember when she died, she was still on felony probation for abusing him. So some of the stuff the cops can actually see. And they're just like, "Damn, this kid really been fucked up." And now that they have this information, that same day they go and they arrest Tyone Palmer Pollard and Tracy Burleson. They were picked up by members of the Gulf Coast Violence Offenders Task Force. They ended up making bail, and Tracy, of course, he's pissed. He's like, "I can't believe my son snitched on me. This nigga went and told the cops." And I'm like, "Well, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen? You kicked him out of your house and basically told your son that you didn't give a shit about him. The fuck you think gonna happen, nigga?" So they make bail, and now the church knows what's up. And they're like, "Oh, no, sir, we can't have this type of environment." The board is feeling some type of way because they're like, "Oh, well, one minute you this great husband and everything, and then the next thing you know, you moving in with your side piece. What's that about?" And so they're finding this very questionable behavior. And, Tracy had to go before the church, and he's like, "Listen, yeah, I did have an affair. I'm so sorry. But I promise y'all, I did not have anything to do with my wife being murdered. Yes, I was unfaithful. Yes, I committed adultery. But no, I did not have anything to do with her being killed." And, it's so many people from the church that are just floored. Their neighbor, Ralph Dawson, he heard about what happened and he's just in shock. He tells the authorities how, he was surprised to hear about William because they used to play dominoes together. And, he tells him that he seemed to be a fine kid as far as he knew. He never had problems with William. Then they start talking to members of the church, and several members are talking about how shady Tracy was and how the numbers had plummeted since he took over the church. One of the associate pastors, Marcus Nobles, he tells the police he never saw it coming. And, he thought that Tracy and Paulette's marriage was solid. And, he's telling them they loved each other. She was his backbone. She would do anything to protect her husband and her pastor. But other people beg to differ, like Paulette's son, John Ross. He came forward and he's speaking to the cops and he was like, "Look here, I'm gonna tell y'all the real. My mom was that nigga's income. She was about to strip him of everything from the church and all the finances, and he knew it. And I think that's why he killed her." And shit, it was pretty much spot on. And while in police custody, Tracy, oh, he's falling apart. So if you remember initially the night of the murder, he said that he had left to go to the store and came back and found his wife on the ground. Well, cops did some digging and they found out that the store he said that he was going to was closed during the time that he was supposedly there. And so the cops, they start asking, "Well, if you went to the store, where's the candy wrapper that you had? You said that you had a Baby Ruth and some chips, but we don't see any wrappers in the car." Oh, but Tracy got a response. He was like, "Oh, well, I threw it out the window." So the cops, they they keep it a band with him. And they're like, "Well, see, Tracy, there's a problem with your story. The story you're claiming that you went to the store, yeah, see, it's closed at that time. And their surveillance videos don't show you anywhere near there." And so Tracy tries to clean it up, and he was like, "Oh, well, no, 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 no. What I said was I was getting ready to drive to the store, and then I saw it was closed, so I turned around." And the cops clap back, and they're like, "So why would you make up the story then?" And Tracy's Goonies looking ass tries to get sympathy. "I mean, I felt like I had to have an alibi because I felt like y'all were gonna blame me. We got too many people that's trying to get us, people in the church, and I just didn't want you to be thinking that I did it. So I lied and said that, I was there." And the cops is in his ass. They was like, you want to know what we think? Here's what we think. We think that you were actually at the house when your wife was killed. See, phone records show that you were there and that William was there too. William told us that you two had walkie talkies. And we know that after Paulette got shot, we know that you went over to the car to at least start the engine because the car jolted. A fire projector was right next to the front tire of the car. And seeing as how it wasn't run over, it looks like it was projected while the car was sitting in the driveway instead of stopping the car next to it without damaging it at all. Makes a lot of sense, don't it? But Tracy is trying to maintain his innocence, and now it's up to the prosecution, Carolyn Dozier and Carrie Allen, to prove that Tracy was the mastermind that manipulated his own son, William Fuller, to commit murder. So the first person to go on trial was Tracy Burleson. His trial began September 24th, 2011, and his defense attorney was Lane Lindsay. When Tracy's trial begins, the prosecution wasted no time in letting the jury know exactly who Tracy was. And their star witness was William Fuller because he agreed to testify against Tracy and Tyone for a lighter sentence. That'll teach y'all to kick his ass out of the house. So the prosecutor, Carolyn Dozier, she tells the jury William Fuller hated his stepmother, but he didn't kill her to frame his father as the defense is trying to make it seem. He did it because he loved his father. And many of the family members that were on the stand that day, they're telling the jury how dysfunctional they were, how boisterous Tracy was about his life with Tyone, and District Attorney Carrie Allen, she says Tracy and Tyone, they convinced William Fuller the only way they could have a happy family was if Paulette was out of the picture. Tracy sweetened the pot by offering insurance money. Tracy repeatedly lied to the police and tried covering up the same. Now, on Thursday, September 29th, 2011, the jury is excused for deliberation. They spent about 5 hours deliberating and they came back with a guilty verdict. They find Tracy Bernard Burleson guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. 5 days later, on October 4th, 2011, Tyone Palmer Pollard's trial begins. Now, baby, let me tell you this. Tyone must got that good because don't you know this chick had her estranged husband at the damn trial. Y'all heard me. I ain't talking about Tracy. I'm talking about her actual husband. Yeah, he was at the trial. Now, Tyone was charged with tampering with evidence because remember, she helped William toss the gun and basically helped him clean up the mess that he had made. So, as her trial begins, once again, William is there to testify against her. And the whole time she's just sitting there boohooing, like, this bitch, cry me a river, Justin Timberlake style. But where were them tears when you was buying that gun in the first place and helping to plan this woman's murder so that you and this Grindle ass nigga could be together? But I digress. Let me save that for fair or foul. So Tyone's attorney, Anthony Oso, he tells the jury, I get that you all think that she's guilty, but the only thing that she's guilty of is tampering with evidence. I think it was apparent from the evidence that she gravitates towards men she doesn't need to be with. She needs to learn to be an independent person. And while the trial is going on, William is kind of having some like little moments. The second day of the trial, he keeps having these crazy ass outbursts. And the judge is like, all right, now I'm going to have your ass taken up out of here. And I mean, William was so loud that the cameras in the hallway outside of the courtroom could hear him. And William is like getting up and he's screaming and ranting. They asked me to kill my stepmom so they could get married. Can I please have a break? Please just let me go. And the judge gives him a little bit of a break. But when he comes back, he tells the court, listen, she bought the gun so that I could kill my stepmom so they could get married. That's why she bought the gun. And Tyone is sitting there knowing that she's screwed. Like she's facing life in prison if she gets convicted. So of course she's sobbing and boohooing and crying, trying to get sympathy. And they're asking William all of these questions, but about 20 minutes into it, he's starting to get irritated because they're trying to, get like they kept asking him for a timeline of when Paulette died. And he's like, I was doing a murder. You don't keep up with exact times and dates. I was doing a fucking murder. Which is true. Not gonna be sitting there, staring at the clock if I'm committing a crime. I'm just saying. But the funny part was when he saw Tyone's husband sitting there by her. Oh, baby, William lost his shit. He had to be carried out the courtroom. And after all of that, learning that his wife's hot pocket was being spread around, Tyone's husband, he was like, man, fuck this shit. I'd say that too, nigga. Come to the trial to support you, and I find out you fucking all these people. Shit. So he gets up and he leaves right before the testimony. 9 days later, on October 13th, 2011, Tyone Palmer Pollard is found guilty of tampering with evidence. Prosecution had asked the jury to convict her of capital murder for aiding and abetting a murder for hire, but the judge declined. She was convicted of 2 felonies of tampering with evidence, and she was sentenced to 7 years in prison plus 10 years of probation. But the only thing is, both sentences will run at the same time, so she got off very easy. She only had to serve at least like half of her 7-year sentence before she was eligible for parole. Now, of course, the family isn't too pleased about this when they hear it. Paulette's sister, Joyce, she tells the courts, I'm halfway pleased with it. Life goes on. I have closure. But William's mama, Sharon Fuller, she ain't happy at all because she feels like this, girl has manipulated her baby. And she tells the court 7 years is a slap on the face for the family, the Burleson family. Now, I got some shit to say about that, but I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. The prosecutors ultimately say that they respect the jury's decision and they say, going to prison isn't easy for anyone. Certainly, someone going for 7 years. But I don't think she got off easy. And this was after Tyone's mama had been on the stand. She was crying and begging for her daughter to get a second chance. She's pleading with the judge to be lenient with Tyone because she had never been in trouble before and because her children needed her. And yes, that's true, but that should have been thought about before you made the choices that you made. So after those two go on trial, it's now William's turn. His trial starts in November of 2011, and his trial was interesting to say the least. His attorney was also Lane Lindsay, and he gets on the stand, and the prosecution just starts in on him immediately. They start talking about, what his life was like with his father and stepmother. The prosecution's like, would you call it a happy home? He says, no. She says, well, how would you describe it? He says, hell. Prosecutor said, was there abuse? He nods. Yep. Physical? Yep. Verbal? Yep. How long was it like that? Up until Pauletta was killed. Is it fair to say that you didn't like Paulette? I still hate her. Well, how would you describe your dad and Paulette's relationship? Shredded, like a fucking broken mirror. I used to have to break them up from stabbing each other all the time. I was stabbed. Well, who was the aggressor? She was. And so the prosecution switches gears a little bit and they were like, well, Mr. Fuller, the date that you killed Paulette Burleson, tell me what the beginning of that day was like. And William is sitting there and he was like, well, him and Tyone was still together and she had told him that he had one more week left, but he kept saying he needed more time because him and Paulette had just set their churches on fire and he wanted to clean it up. And the defense is like, oh shit. Yep, y'all heard that right. Tracy and Paulette supposedly planned that shit together. But this wasn't supposed to be revealed in the courts. Now, District Judge Susan Brown, she presided over the case. So the prosecution and the defense, they go to the judge, and the prosecution is like, yeah, my bad. I ain't mean for that to come out that way. And the judge tells them, too late. You may not have meant it, but it did. See, them using that could help Tracy's case because it was just hearsay. So the jury had to strike that little, tidbit from the record. And so the judge tells William, listen, when you get back up there, don't you mention that damn church fire burning down. You hear me? I don't want to try this again. And William agrees. And so the defense is like, well, judge, before you bring the jury back, we're on the record and I'm gonna object to this witness violation of the court motion regarding the fire of the church with the allegation that there might have been in our standby. And as a result of that, he decides to move for a mistrial. The defense decides to move for a mistrial, but the judge shot that shit down quick and was like, nah, y'all good. The prosecution and the defense continue to hear William out. And, this is when they learn that he's been abused for years and years. And after the trial, on November 11th, 2011, William Fuller is found guilty of murder. But since he did testify against his father and his father's little side chick, he only got 20 years and he'll be eligible for release June 7th, 2030. As of now, Tracy Burleson is at the Allen B. Polinsky unit and recently transferred to the Ellis Correctional Facility in Texas. Tyone, although she is in the clear, it did take a few years off of her. She actually did 3.5 years in prison and then 10 years of probation. Now, this was back in 2011. So, of course, by now, her time is up and she's living her best life. And she's living her best life underground because when I say I couldn't find this chick nowhere, baby, nowhere to be found, okay? William Fuller is at the Jim Ferguson unit in Madison County, Texas. He will be released June 7th, 2030. So he's got about 5 more years and he's up out of there. I only hope that when he does get out, he'll be able to, get his life back on track and, get somebody that actually gives a damn about him. And now it is time for Fair or Foul, where we look at the justice system to determine if the sentence that was given was indeed fair or if it was some foul ass bullshit. For Tracy's sentence of life in prison without parole, it is absolutely fair. This little myopic, muppet, goosebumps looking ass nigga deserves everything that's gonna happen to him. He deserves life in prison. You walking around here thinking that you invincible, you boldly fucking around with a chick that's not even divorced her damn self and putting yourself in her kids' lives. And these ain't no itty bitty kids. These are like teenagers. They're smart. They see shit. And then you're picking at your son, your actual blood. You're stealing money from him and abusing him all under the guise of love. That makes no sense to me. Then you try to basically sneak your own son. You calling him a pussy and everything because he didn't want to kill his stepmother. You could have done it your damn self, but you chose not to because you knew you didn't even have the fucking courage to do it. So why would you ask your son? What was the reason?
Reason.
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the reason?
I just explained the reason.
What was the reason, bitch?
I don't need to explain myself to you. And
What was the reason?
You were a master manipulator and you're getting everything that you deserve. You used the guise of being a pastor, a man of the cloth, and you burned down your own church for money. I hope the same way that you burned down that church, that you burned for all of eternity, because Lord knows your face looked like it's already started in that process anyway. Tyone getting 7 years and then only having to do like 3.5 before being eligible for parole is some bullshit to me. The fact that you did this and put the battery pack in William to begin with and manipulated him by talking about being this whole big happy family and how you were his friend. You weren't his fucking friend. You were his friend for convenience. You were his friend and you were taking care of him because you knew that that would be a way to get to his Jiminy Cricket looking ass daddy. You were no different than his father and stepmother. They had him around for a check. You had him around because you were getting paid to take care of him and you called yourself his friend. You knew that he was easily manipulated. He had all of these issues going on. Yes, you know that, he's physically incapacitated to an extent, but mentally and emotionally, you knew that he had other issues going on and you took advantage of that. You decided that you were going to take advantage of him. And you were the one that came up with this grand scheme of getting your friend, and I use that term loosely, a gun to take out his own stepmother. You took him to your cousin's house to shower and change and everything. And as soon as you had the opportunity, you moved his daddy in. Hell, before the girl was even murdered, you was over here talking about how you were tired of being on the side and all of that. Newsflash, bitch, you signed up to be a side bitch. You were the side bitch. You knew exactly what the fuck you were doing. Y'all could have done this a different way. You could have waited for him to get a divorce. You could have gotten a divorce. So what was you gonna do? Huh? Because your husband was at the trial. So what the fuck was you gonna do? Was you gonna sit there and keep fucking with this nigga if he would have divorced his wife? You still had a husband, your damn self. Like, the fuck? I saw the pictures. You were taking family photos and teaching your daughters that this is acceptable, which is some crazy shit to me because you legit had this nigga around your kids knowing that he was married, knowing that you were married. You were being deceptive the entire time. And the fact that you only got 7 years for being an accomplice for murder, that's exactly what the fuck you were. You were a co conspirator because you conspired with Tracy's bumblebee stung head looking ass, and this woman was killed. And then you went as low as fucking William as a reward? What kind of sick, twisted shit is that? Like, you have serious problems. I can only hope that now that you have gotten your shit together, I can only hope that in the 3.5 years that you spent in prison, that you have actually got your shit right and turned your life around. But I highly doubt it. I really hope that you're able to have a relationship with your kids because you didn't think about that kind of shit when you started plotting this plan with Tracy's foot fungus looking ass. You spent time away from your kids who, although were older, still needed you. You had a young son, you had two young, impressionable daughters, and you fucked that off. You should have got at least 20 years. The only reason that William got 20 years, and honestly, to me, I feel like William is the real victim in this situation because he was manipulated by all of you motherfuckers and taken advantage of. I wish that the sentences could have actually been reversed, where you get the 20 years and he got the 7 years, because yes, he did kill his stepmother. Yes, he was of sound mind and body to do so. However, I'm also looking at the many years of abuse that this man endured by the people that was supposed to love and take care of him. His father also put that battery pack in him too, knowing that he was going to do any and everything to please him. William told him several times he did not want to kill his stepmother, but his father taunting him and physically abusing him to the point that he had to basically say, "Okay, I'll do it," shows me that this nigga didn't give a fuck about his own seed. Like I said, he only took him because he knew that it was a check. Even as he got older and went to college and tried to get an education, his father saw dollar signs. And honestly, even though she's the victim, I'm also talking about Paulette's ass. Paulette was not completely innocent either. At the time of her death, she was on federal probation for abuse. There were many allegations that she was abusive. There were many allegations that she was hurting those kids. You bring in foster kids with the impression of being there for them and providing a better lifestyle for them, and you've got your kids sleeping in a shed. They can't even wash their ass in the house. They got to go take a hose out back. And then other people are seeing this shit. So it's not just speculation and rumors. And then you abuse your stepson to the point that he says, fuck it, and goes to the cops and tells them, hey, I'm being abused. And it goes all the way to trial. And for whatever unknown reason, your ass got off scot free and only gets probation. And after that, you would think that you would say, okay, hey, let me get my shit together. But you don't. You continue to fuck with this boy. And y'all know how I am about abuse when it comes to these kids. Y'all know I've had my own issues with dealing with niggas that abuse their children. And in this instant, Paulette, you not 100% innocent, boo boo. No, I'm not saying that you deserve to be murdered or anything like that, because at the end of the day, somebody did take a human life and that is wrong. But you were taking advantage of this child for your own selfish reasons. And you were also doing a lot of shady ass shit. You were taking in these kids for a check. Why wouldn't you think that Tracy would be just as shady as you? Two shady ass people are together and two shady ass fucking people getting caught up in bullshit. I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't have anything to do with that church fire as well. Like, I don't think that Tracy, figured that shit out by himself, because I feel like he ain't got no fucking common sense. I feel like she might have had something to do with it. Under normal circumstances, like I said, I'm not gonna sit there and just act like, as the victim, she was 100% innocent. And normally I don't attack the victim. I don't go after the victim. I'm not trying to attack her. But in this case, I'm just like, look at the shit that you did before you died. Look at the shit that was going on. Had you not been so hateful to William, do you really think he would have killed you? You tortured him. I know that you were getting cheated on, and I know that you were involved with someone that basically disrespected you to the utmost power. But at the same time, that does not give you the justification to do what you did. Again, y'all, I'm not saying that she deserved what happened to her. Definitely not saying that because, again, she is still a victim. She was still murdered by the man that she vowed to love until death do them part. And this Ewok looking ass nigga decided that he was going to do them part earlier than what was intended rather than just divorce her because he wanted to be greedy. This being a man of the cloth and her being the first lady and all of this going on behind closed doors. This is the exact reason as to why so many people don't go to church anymore because you don't know who's really on the pulpit. I myself have been in a similar situation, not to the point that, the pastor died, but I can recall in my prior marriage when my ex husband was being unfaithful and I was trying to be the devoted wife and, work things out and all of that bullshit. And I went to my pastor at the time and told him that we needed counseling. And the person that he appointed to us, I put my trust in. I was speaking with them in confidence. And then all of a sudden, one day, I get a dick pic. And I'm just sitting there like, the fuck? And, initially he tried to like play it off and deny it and dismiss it like it was nothing. But after a couple of weeks, this motherfucker actually gets even more bold and is trying to offer me money to fuck. And it really made me look at the church completely different. Like, wow, you're supposed to be an appointed deacon. You're a pastor in this church. You may not be the lead pastor, but you're a pastor in this church nonetheless. You are a servant of God. And here you are trying to take advantage of your flock. Like, it turned me off. And I stopped going to church for a very long time because of that. Thank God that I was able to end up going to a different church that, changed my perspective over time and changed my mind about things. And it brought me back to my relationship with God because this experience could have turned me away completely. But me growing up in the church is what pushed me to go back. But not everybody is like that. There are some people that experience shit like this and they're done. Everybody that's in the cloth is a fraud to them. And this in this instance, Paulette and her goof troop looking ass husband were frauds. This is just one of those cases where it's like nobody is innocent. Nobody is trustworthy. And when it comes to the justice system, for the most part, it was spot on. Like I said, with Tracy, his ass definitely deserves to be in prison for the rest of his life. Tyone, she got off with murder. Point blank simple. And I'd like to think that her karma is going to come back onto her because you literally got off scot free with murder. And ultimately, it was a ripple effect. But now, Sharon is without her son, and I pray that he's able to get out in 2030 and somewhat still have a life. He was 21 years old when he went in. So hopefully, when he gets out, being a 41-year-old male, he's still able to somewhat have a life. He's still able to somewhat, do the things that he wanted to do in life, have kids, have a family. And you got to think about that too, hoping that it isn't a cycle, hoping that if he does have a family, that he doesn't end up doing to them what was done to him. That's something else that has to be considered. This man has spent 10 years with his stepmother and father and endured abuse. He was manipulated to think that his own mother didn't want him. He was manipulated to think that his mother was, bleeding him dry financially. And then he learns the truth that it was his father and stepmother all along. This case was so twisted that hell, TV One turned around and made a movie about it. If you've seen it before, there's a movie called Sins of the Father starring AJ Johnson as the detective, and it also stars Dietrich Haddon. They made that nigga look shifty as fuck in this movie. Like the way that they did his character, oh, it was spot on to emulate Tracy. Like I have never laughed so hard in my life seeing this screen, seeing this dude play this role. But it was a really good movie. And of course, Fatal Attraction also did an episode on it. And, I was watching some of the trial online and listening to the interviews between the police department and Tracy's Game of Thrones Hogwarts looking ass. And from jump, you could tell, like, by his little beady ass eyes darting back and forth that he was lying. But if you have not seen Sins of the Father, definitely recommend that you watch it. It's on Tubi, really good movie, good cast. And, it kind of really plays out the story of what happened with Paulette and everything. And of course, the names were changed, but you'll be able to tell that it was based on them when you watch it. All right, y'all. That is it for this week's episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. As always, thank you all for supporting. I am very appreciative. Y'all know the drill. Check the website if you want to buy merch, www.mzkaye.com, all that good stuff. You can follow the show on the various streams on Instagram and TikTok for however long that's around at Infamous One Podcast. That's the number one, by the way, not spelled out. And you can leave a review there. On Twitter, on X, it's Infamous One Pod, where you can also leave a review. On Facebook, you can join the private discussion group, the Infamous Ones discussion group. But in case y'all ninjas can't hear, if you don't answer the questions, your ass will be staying outside in the cold. Try me if you want to. You're going to be out there in that 20-degree temperature. The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and so on and so on. So leave a review. It only takes a few seconds. Y'all know these reviews matter. And now to the reviews. This one comes from Spotify from YHA, and they commented on the Chicken King episode. It says, the way I just tried to stand up in this car and clap, because why won't these males just leave? Why won't they stop fucking these women? What in their brains say killing is the answer? Like, OMG, I just don't understand. I just found your podcast last week, and baby, it has been a pleasure listening. You cuss so good, and I love it. Listen, I love cussing when I get into it, okay? It just flows so good when I get to going. The next review comes from Apple Podcast from s_dot joy, and it's captioned, I never leave reviews. Oh, okay. I never leave reviews for podcasts. Kay, girl, you had me feeling bad. I found your podcast from Sisters Who Kill. Keep going. Don't give up. I appreciate how vulnerable you are and sharing your own stories to make us connect with you. You're amazing, and no matter what, as a Black woman, you always have to work 10 times harder than everybody else. Unfortunately, we don't support each other the way we should, but your podcast is amazing. I've listened to almost every episode. Congratulations on your wedding. Thank you for being authentic. Thank you for sharing your story of a blended family. You are awesome. I'm about to get your book. I support you. Be blessed. Thank you. Shout out to Sisters Who Kill for all of their success. They are a serious force to be reckoned with and a very big, reason as to why I started my podcast. So thank you so much to Sisters Who Kill. Listen, I hear you when you say that, Black women got to work 10 times harder than everybody else and how, sometimes we don't support each other. I am one that, supports a lot of these podcasts. I support Sisters Who Kill. That's how I got started. I listen to them all the time. If I'm not recording my own episodes Fridays, best believe I'm listening to Sisters Who Kill. Wednesdays, I'm listening to Melanin Mayhem, and listening to Renee. Hey, Renee, New Our Nation. I also listen to Melanin Mysteries. I love supporting. So of course, that's what I'm going to do. It's what we should do. Speaking of support, if you want to support the show or if you're feeling the spirit, meaning that liquor we've been sipping on, click the link at the bottom of the screen from whatever app you're listening to and this episode on and hit listener to support to subscribe, excuse me. See, it always happens when I say that word. I don't know why I have such a hard time saying subscribe. But yeah, whatever app you're listening to this episode on, hit the listener support button to subscribe. They start at like 99 cents and gives you access to stuff the listeners don't get from behind the scenes and stuff, all of that. You can also donate via the Cash App to $infamous one pod. That's $INFAMOUSONEPOD. Again, $INFAMOUSONEPOD. Donations go towards research because damn, it is expensive with these court documents. Oh, shout out to my snack crew as always. They cash at me that little $10 every week faithfully. I appreciate it because snacks is life. Oh, listen, real quick, we are having a contest for the infamous ones. I need to come up with a name for my listeners each week. So, like, y'all know I have a name for my readers, the literary diva dolls, the Kitty Kisses crew. So, between now and January 31st, email your suggestions to infamous1pod@gmail.com. That's infamousonepod@gmail.com with your social media handles. Make sure that you put your Facebook name in there or your Instagram name or however you can be reached and enter for a chance to win $50. The winner will be announced in the first February show. But listen, email me. Don't Facebook message me or nothing like that because I ain't going to check it. Email me only, okay? All submissions have to be email. infamousonepod@gmail.com. If you have a case that you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, if you want to inquire about ad space, or if you want to leave a review, send me an email to infamous1pod@gmail.com. Once again, infamousonepod@gmail.com. And once again, people, please share, share, share. Sharing is caring. This podcast is growing by the day, and it means the world, so please keep sharing. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all next week with a new episode. Oh, and by the way, this is how it's going to go from now on. So, Melanin Mayhem is on Wednesdays, Sisters Who Kill is on Fridays, and now the infamous ones will be on Sundays. So, I will see y'all Sunday with a new episode. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.